Introducing Animal Warriors of the Kingdom Primal Battle by Spiro and Authority Figure. A turn-based strategy game using the Animal Warrior action figures as your game pieces. Use strategy and teamwork to overcome the odds or crush your opponents with brute force. The adventure is in your hands. Includes battle boards, rulebook, dice, and stat cards for 15 characters. Use Shop Pay to secure your order and pay over time. Figures sold separately. Animal Warriors of the Kingdom Primal Battle.
And we are live. I'm Adam. This is Highly Articulated. But this is also monkey business. So, of course, joining Brick something. What's going on, Brick? Can you hear me?
Sort of. I hear you talking on some kind of video, I think, right now.
Can you hear me now? This worked before we went live.
I know. 1 second. Wah, wah.
I mean, we do everything beforehand, and everything says it's working, you know. But anyways, we'll give Brick a quick second. First thing, while we're waiting for Brick, I'm just going to say, if you go to spirotoys.com now, you can get the game, pre-order the game, pre-order Wave 3 figures, pre-order your Wave 2 figures. Wave 1 figures are in stock. Get those. Brick, are you with me?
I think I am. Am I there?
Okay, it sounds like you are.
That was weird.
That was weird. We were
Well, hello, everybody. You know what it is? It's straight up monkey business is what's going on.
It's monkey business.
Yeah.
That's
Good
what
to
we're
see
here
everybody.
for.
Happy Mother's Day to all the moms. To Mother Mika and I guess Jadu, maybe? Yeah.
I mean, mother of clones?
Yeah.
Is that, I guess?
Yeah.
If that's a thing.
Works for
maybe
me.
that's a thing.
It's a thing.
Maybe not. But we're here to talk about Primal Battles today, the tabletop board game developed by Authority Figure. And we have Authority Figure, which is 2 figures. And those 2 figures are Zach and Jeremy. What's going on, guys?
Hey, what's going on?
How dizzle you
apart
dizzle.
from learning how to do this on the fly, as it seems.
What an intro to monkey business. So far, this has just been bananas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
monkeys
you.
are
Thank you for that.
in the tent.
That's what we're shooting for.
I'm gonna see myself out.
Welcome both to Monkey Business AWOK Talk. How are you guys doing?
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for having us here. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Really good. I wish I got to chime in on the whole if you make clones, are you a mom thing? And the answer is a resounding yes.
Sure. Yeah.
That makes Dr. Venture a mom.
It sure does.
Yeah.
The Venture Brothers.
It's such a great show because you can miss it while it's still in production. It's one of those rare gems that is both nowhere and everywhere constantly.
Hey, we got a lot of cool people here already. My friend Mr. Wonderful.
I'm seeing that. I'm gonna pull up the chat. Normally we don't have this much going on in the chat, but let's check in. Mr. Wonderful is hanging out. He says, "What's up, dudes?" Ted Darklaw is here. Jason Bienvenu is also hanging out. Internet
challenged internet superstar.
Man, he gets so much crap for his internet.
The government. Thanks, Toy Samples is here. What's going on, everybody? We're going to talk about the Primal Battles game, but before that, I'm just curious, a little bit of background from you guys. You guys are, if I'm not mistaken, brothers?
Yes.
Yes. Despite appearances.
Yeah, not step, not half.
Not clones.
Yeah, we are from the same parentage.
Right. Fraternal twins. We couldn't have gotten closer.
So was there a conscious, like, did you guys actually have a conversation at one point and one of you went, okay, I'm going to always shave and have my hair, short, and you got to have facial hair and have longer hair, just so that people can tell us apart?
Yeah, actually, so the biggest thing you can use to differentiate between the two of us is that scar that I gave Zachary on his eyebrow when he was about 5 years old. You see it cuts right down the middle. I'm sorry, not down the middle, but and he has pretty bushy eyebrows, and you can see the separation.
So was that the origins of the Primal Battle? Is that what that was?
Yes.
Okay.
That was me laying on my stomach watching my grandparents. Those old televisions that used to just sit on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm laying on my stomach watching Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and Zachary's just running back and forth and just jumping over me. And then I think he missed a jump, or either I went to get up or something happened. And so he goes to jump over me, and now he's just like airborne, and he goes straight into our granddad's rocking chair, right, and just hit the corner of it.
Yeah.
It's Mortal Kombat. And
now I'm curious if that's the same story that Zach remembers.
I don't remember anything of that year.
Yeah.
As a result of my injury, so it could have been anything.
Well done. Wow. Okay.
That's a good way to start it off. I'm curious. Jeremy, you've been on the show before. I've chatted with you a bunch. Zach,
yeah.
I'm sort of just meeting you and sort of getting a bit of an introduction to you in the last couple days. Jeremy, I know you collect a bunch of lines. Zach, you're more the tabletop game guy, right?
Yes, that's my particular focus when it comes to lines. I'm not a person who buys into them. So I'm not a big completionist when it comes to lines. I just grab the things that I like. I'm also a big fan of what's sometimes referred to as doo-doo plastic. I'm not one of those people that gets a lot of the highly articulated. He said it. I don't get a lot of the highly articulated stuff. I love the $11 like Power Rangers lines, stuff that just comes with a lot of like gaudy accessories. They're very sessionable. I can grab like 3 of them at a time, put them in very simplistic poses, bash them together. That's where my collecting is. I actually have, and this isn't a bad figure, but it's not highly articulated. This is my Jack specific Samus. So this is the kind of stuff I'm into.
Yeah. A lot of that stuff though is so reminiscent of what we had as kids, right? Like going back to like the 5 POA, and then you'd get a couple bonus points of articulation with certain lines or whatever. But so much of what we had was 5 POA, or maybe 7 if it had knees, right? But
yeah.
So there's still value in that. I think they're wildly underestimated, some of those toy lines, in terms of what you get for what you pay. So.
One I still love is the Batman Forever line from back in the day, and that was all 5 POA, but they all had great costumes, and I loved. I always lost my accessories when I was a kid, and I loved that Two-Face always had his gun in his hand. That wasn't an option. He just slept like that.
You're retaining this one. Actually, it wasn't too long ago. I got you that Defenders of Gotham 2-pack. It wasn't too long ago, was it? It was like the only way to get Batman and Robin in their movie costume, and not the weird gimmick one. Zach,
Yeah. I do remember what you're talking about, and you're right. There wasn't a standard Robin, was there?
Not outside that 2-pack.
So strange. And that's the thing, is that like back in the day, you would wind up like I remember one birthday I got a Batmobile, and the reason that I wanted it is because it was the only way to get a standard Batman from Batman and Robin. Which, by the way, if nobody's into that line, dope Mr. Freeze, and I am looking to trade.
The DM's open.
Yeah.
I think actually Adam and Brick, I think Zach's being very, very humble about just kind of being into board games. He's had D&D campaigns that he's written, have been published and stuff.
Oh, wow.
So yeah,
Mhm.
he's way more farther down that rabbit hole than he's letting on. But
So I think it's fair to say he's the brains of the operation. Then, if that's
there's a very as far as the dynamic between the two of us, there's a very John Lennon and Paul McCartney thing, happening.
okay, I
Yeah.
get
Right?
it. Yeah.
So especially with this particular venture, due to the fact that like I'm very much an action figure enthusiast, and then as a hobby from time to time, I will dabble in tabletop gaming, where Zachary is the exact opposite. Like I said, he's very, very knowledgeable as far as tabletop gaming is concerned, but then dabbles a little bit and buys some doo-doo plastic. So,
Nice.
And one element of that coming from my perspective is that the games that we're focusing on making right now are specifically tailored to the action figure enthusiast. And one great thing about Jeremy being on the team for these projects is he doesn't have the same acumen I do. So I don't know when I'm throwing a new complex idea that just seems like secondhand to me, but it would be brand new for somebody else. And Jeremy has become the litmus test because I'll start getting into like math models for like the rolling of 2d6 for standard what do they call that, the bell curve, standard distribution, understanding that the averages are here, and so every time you roll the dice, the player knows that they have this chance for this happen, this chance for this happen, and Jeremy is like, nobody knows that, and we can't assume they do. So I can really get way out in the aether, and it's very important.
I don't know what
That's
you're
awesome.
talking about.
we're actually
Yeah.
so we're working with another company for an upcoming project. There'll be more information on that coming up, but the representative that we're working with, Zach was laying down an idea, and he was like, you need to start thinking like the average Walmart customer. Which I think was a very interesting way to say, hey, Zach, slow the fuck down. Maybe pump the brakes a little bit on that.
Zach's explaining chess to people that don't barely understand checkers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
That's great.
I've
That's
had
great.
to learn a lot about the behind the scenes stuff, and had a hand in the secret sauce, which is actually what controls all of our games, which is our registered intellectual property, which is the articulated action combat system. It's been a lot of fun. We've had a really good time.
What was the moment, like where did the idea come from to actually do this, to actually sort of combine the two things that you guys are both passionate about?
So
this is I want to
I'll let you fight over who answers first.
Well, it's another opportunity for me to brag on Jeremy a bit, because he will come to me, especially throughout this process, and ask me if something's possible to make into a game. And for the longest time, my knee-jerk reaction was like, "Oh no, that's like games don't work that way."
Right.
And then I'd sit and think about it for 20 minutes and come back to him, and it'd be like, "Oh wait, no, it is. What if we approach it this way?" And that's where the conversation starts. And the impetus to this game was actually the very same. He called me and he said, "Is there any way to make action figures a video game, or make it a board game?" And I said, "Oh no, the scale is all wrong. It doesn't make any sense. You're gonna have to take real estate out of your entire basement. It's gonna ruin your whole life, and the game won't be fun.
Your wife is gonna leave you."
You say that as though being an action figure collector isn't already a curse in and of itself.
Right.
Thank you very much, Zach. Yeah, there's a lot of times where there's an idea for something, and I'll say, "Hey, Zach, I think this would be really cool. What's your opinion on in 30 seconds, can you put together the framework for something? You know, and he's like, absolutely not. And then it's like, well, okay, but maybe like we think about it like this instead, and then we just start shooting back and forth. And next thing you know, we're talking about dice rolls.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Nice.
but where we got ourselves here right now, which is, you know, Zach and I, we typically have some type of collaborative creative project that's happening in the background, right, that we never expect anybody else to see. It's just our little, you know, fun thing that
Sure.
we do. And so we were actually working on a tabletop tactical, like, fire team based strategy game in a very traditional sense, utilizing miniatures, right? And, you know, calling on my, you know, 15 years of active duty military service and, you know, my 3 tours in Iraq and everything. So, you know, you were going to implement real world tactics to achieve success with inside the battle space there. And, you know, we were going to have like a team leader, a grenadier, a medic and machine gunner. And then plans were coming down later for expansions for like sniper and, you know, engineer, and things like that. And during that time, you know, we had built a couple of models for it using, you know, plastic army men from Walmart and building mock-up structures and how garrisoning soldiers inside a cover was going to work and all that stuff. But at the same time, Jason and I had been developing a friendship. I started as a customer, and then, you know, I had a couple of questions, and then we started joking back and forth. And next thing you know, we're sending each other DMs and memes and stuff. And so that's really where it came from. You know, that's you know, could we actually do this in the 1/12 scale? And that's when I contacted Zachary. I said, hey, do you think this is feasible at all? You know, because me, like a whole lot of other people, we took a look at Animal Wars of the Kingdom, and we were automatically like, there was like it triggered creativity in people. Like, this is new. This is something that's, you know, really, really cool. It's a new play space to work inside of. And so Zach and I wound up having that conversation. And then once we had this pretty solid groundwork for something, that's when I went ahead and reached out to Jason. I said, hey, I've got kind of a weird idea for a companion product that hopefully is going to incentivize sales of your figures at the same time. So would you like to have a chat? And he's like, yeah. And so I pitched it to Jason. It was very validating for him to automatically kind of see the utility in what we were trying to achieve in this. And he saw that as well. And so, like, 6 months after that, we debuted a very, very early prototype of this at Toylanta for people to see. And then at the last Legions Con last November, we had a much more, you know, fleshed out version of it that we actually did live audience participation and play test with in a small panel that Jason and I took part in.
Yeah. And I'll just point out that video is available, I think, in the AWOK Facebook group. You might have to dig for it a little bit. But as far as a playthrough of the game, we're not going to do that today. A bunch of people did ask. But first off, I didn't really anticipate that would be the question that everybody was going to send me. And second of all, we didn't even float that question to you guys. So we'll try to coordinate something later on, or maybe you and Kato are already doing that. But stay tuned, because it will be happening soon. I promise, on behalf of those two guys. Why a game? I mean, you're Zach, you're a tabletop game guy. Jeremy, you're an action figure guy. Why did you guys think, like, we want this to come together?
Well,
now, to be fair, like we said earlier, we're both.
Yes.
But as far as like percentage wise, I'm 80% figures, 20% tabletop enthusiast, and I would wager
that
to
kind
say
of the answer then?
Yeah, Zachary, why don't you go ahead and take that one?
Yeah, so there was one thing that I noticed, because I never stopped collecting toys No matter how old I got, it didn't even really slow down all that much, through my 20s and stuff like that. And one thing that I noticed, especially when we first started talking about the game, and I'm sure that this had to do with a lot to do with Jeremy's feelings about recapturing that spirit of play, because it's something that lots of adults don't do. I'm not embarrassed by this, because Jeremy mentioned I'm a writer. And having little actors to play out things with is a great way to experiment with story elements and stuff like that. So a game like this actually goes against my own sensibilities, because I think you got a toy and play with it. But I, as a board game guy, I understand that as we get older, we feel a certain need for there to be structure to the way that we play. And that's when I noticed, I've been buying these toys for years. I don't play with them all that much, but that means that the most fun that you have, you go to the store, you pick it up. That's fun. You take it home, you rip the box open. That's fun.
Maybe.
Maybe.
You might leave it in the box, and that's fun.
Nowadays, you have to soak them in hot water, which is something I had to adjust to. That's fun.
That was Adam yesterday. Sorry.
Burn fingers.
You throw all the accessories on them. You get them into the perfect pose. That's fun. You put it on the shelf, and the fun is done for months, if not years.
Yeah.
The fun's done. And what we actually really, really enjoyed was finding that perfect pose. And so this game, like why it exists, is to literally just facilitate posing after posing after pose after pose after pose after pose, so that you get a chance to do the thing that you like to do with your figure. And that's really why this had so many legs. I'm gonna tell on Jeremy a little bit, because the first time we showed this, he actually didn't have a formal rule book with him. He was just kind of showing the vague concepts, and every time we get this, so everything he told him about the game there was wrong, but the spirit of it was correct.
I wouldn't say wrong. I did really aggravate this one gentleman with a ponytail though. Like he had his arms
Just
crossed.
one.
Yeah, he asked a question, and I guess I didn't answer it to his satisfaction. He had his arms crossed like this, and then like he got up and then like left the room. But anyway, can't
has something
win
to
them
do
all.
with the negatives that one should take when going in the diagonal. Which our geometry on that plays it real fast and loose.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of things in this game that are done fast and loose because it's supposed to be fun first.
Right.
Absolutely fun first.
Right.
So was his protestations were based on a knowledge of how a game should work.
Right. Should in his opinion, how things should happen as far as the diagonal is concerned. And our emphasis for this, and really what we're trying to achieve is keep the pace going. Right. Because again, if you're a 25 or 30 year tabletop game enthusiast, a veteran tabletop strategy player, things like that, some of the things that you see here may not make a lot of sense to you, right? But it's, the game wasn't, I'm sorry, but the game wasn't designed for you. It was designed for action figure enthusiasts, right?
Okay.
And so and if it gets to the point, if the game is popular enough to where we have that large amount of cross-pollination between the two, and there needs to be like a more in-depth rule book that's put together specifically for people like that, that's not off the table. The table. So But
Leave the
yeah,
jokes to Zach, Jeremy.
right. Dude, Adam, shut up, dude.
Yeah, stick to the Beatles analogies there.
Yeah. So, but Zachary and I, we, like I said, we always have some type of creative project going on the back burner, and look, we've been like this since we were kids. We were playing with our action figures, in the backyard or in our room and stuff, and really, if you're playing with TMNT figures and you're making up your own scenarios for the day, right? Really what you're doing is you're writing fan fiction. Like you're writing fan fiction that adheres to the rules of that set universe, right? And the characters that inhabit it. And so that's we've been involved in the creative process with each other for a very, very long time.
Brick, and you got
actually just sort of listening to you two talking about the game, there are two things that came up. First off, I'm thinking about Ponytail Guy. And you mentioned the possibility or sort of who you're creating this for. So based on that, and based on actually this comment that Mr. Wonderful's saying, I'm very pumped for this game. Just showed the video to my son, and the order I placed going to be a blast. So along those lines, like when you say we're targeting not you, Ponytail Man, but we'll maybe get to you later, right?
I guarantee, Ponytail Man, if you're out there, I guarantee you're going to love this game because I put it in front of a lot of game board enthusiasts who absolutely love this game.
And so, but based on, so who are you sort of envisioning is going to play? And so is this something that someone could play with their young children, for example, and give us a little bit of sense of who you're targeting, and then I'll ask something after.
I guess when you say young, that there's a cap on that, right? But this isn't Chutes and Ladders. This is a bit more complex than that. Yeah, sorry, you lost me at Candyland there, Chief. But it's a bit more complex than that. Probably a 10-year-old. I would say, I don't know, Zach, what would you say? I'd probably say 10 and up would be fine.
10 and up would be fine. Like we're just going just the over under here. The game itself, it would be quite a bit of reading for anybody younger than 9. I acknowledge that. But really, I think 9 and 10, that's going to be your lower limit. Now, I do want to address something that Jeremy said about what.
No, sorry, I just read something weird.
I do want to address something that Jeremy said about like whether or not like we need to get into the weeds of like a more complex version of this game, like a 4X game or Twilight Imperium. I don't know if anybody's familiar with stuff like that.
People want to play AWOK for 17 hours straight.
4 years I've been playing this game.
So to put that into perspective, Twilight Imperium does have a companion app that times everything about the game, including how long you've spent on your personal turns. And I average about an hour total to myself for a game. So that's how long that game is. Yeah. But honestly, the strategies, and so when we're talking about like who this is appropriate for, at what age, and what, even our oldest players, where's it going to be, and what's the shelf life of this game, we took into consideration that everybody is going to engage in this game on different levels. They're not necessarily going to get all in on the strategy. Some of them just want to beat plastic together. Some people are going to want to get further into the strategy. And really, this is something that Jeremy said many times before. This is a game that is very simple to learn, but very difficult to master. And that has a lot to do with the design implementation of how items work in this game. Items are probably one of the largest mechanics in this game. It's the thing that you have the most to learn about in general, but they're designed simplistically in such a way that you're never surprised when something does something. If that makes sense. And an example that the last time we were on a stream with Kato, I posed this question and nobody answered it. I think they thought it was rhetorical, so I'm going to ask you it, and it's a question. Okay.
I will answer.
What's easier to fire, a crossbow or a bow and arrow?
A
Is the crossbow preloaded?
Let's assume yes.
Then the crossbow.
I would assume a crossbow.
Right. And which one's harder to load?
The crossbow.
Crossbow.
The crossbow. And that's exactly how it works. We tried not to put anything in the game that was balanced weirdly to make it too game-like. It's as grounded as we possibly can be with anthropomorphic monkeys throwing rocks at each other.
I have one more sort of general question about the game, and then I want to get into specifics.
Yeah.
Not too specific, but sort of the general specifics, I guess, if that makes any sense. But let's just linger on this this crossbow versus bow and arrow thing, because I'm fascinated by this all of a sudden. I wasn't until just now. So I think what I kind of gather from this is like the crossbow is quicker to shoot once it's preloaded, but it takes longer to reload essentially. So there's like a balance between the two, in a way.
If we want to get into the specifics of these two weapons, they're balanced in two ways. First and foremost, I would say, is that the crossbow is a single-handed weapon.
Okay.
So you can still hold a shield while firing it.
Right.
Right. There you go. And then the bow, on the other hand, is a double-handed weapon, and they're difficult to use. So every character except for Lexion, I believe, every character except for Lexion gets a -5 to accuracy whenever using it.
Except Lexion.
Yeah, so you need skill in order to use this.
So you need a Lexion.
That's further balanced.
Mark that down.
That's further balanced by the fact that the bow and arrow fires longer. It fires 9 spaces compared to the crossbow's 5.
Right.
Right. And so all of these things are pulled very carefully from realistic armaments in order to make sure that you're never going back to the rule book and being like, okay, does the crossbow fire longer or does the longbow fire longer? Just remember what you think you know about either weapon, and it's probably true.
Yeah. Not to mention Lexion can, run across the board in 2 moves.
2 turns.
Yeah.
You can get all the way to the other end of the board.
Lexion is fast.
We're selling Lexions today.
Yeah. Lexion.
Out of your pre-order. I would have time.
I would say if there's any character that Zach and I have had the most conversations about, it's Lexion. And just due to the speed of the character. And then Zach will come back. He's like, he's too fast. No. Sorry, I'm sorry. I'll go to Zach and I'm like, he's too fast. We gotta tone him back. And then Zach's like, okay, I see what you're saying. And then Zach will like call me the next day. Hey, I didn't tone him down. Here's why. And so like anyway, we got to it. Yeah, he could make his way to the other side of the board in 2 moves.
That's pretty quick.
Very extremely high speed.
There are some questions in the chat. I'm going to save the questions for sort of after we've gone through our questions, just in case they come up anyway, and they get answered anyway. But don't worry. There's been a few.
Translation
stay to the end, everybody that's here.
Yeah.
Before you move on past the game, two quick questions. You mentioned earlier that you were trying to make it so that the game moves. And so can you give us a sense of like time for turns and maybe an entire game, do you think, timing wise?
So I can tell you I've never, Zach has coordinated and then conducted and then adjudicated every single play test that's happened so far, right?
Okay.
But I'm a big fan of playing with myself, I know. And so
all over the internet or
yes. No,
okay,
cool. I have a board here, and I've been play testing against myself using the stats for the characters, but just utilizing my G.I. Joe classifieds and Marvel Legends as placeholders for them, right? And so that actually does answer one question that Mr. Wonderful had. Can this be played solo, or would that be too difficult? No, because if I'm I'm playing the game against myself, and really what I'm trying to achieve is just having a good time posing figures, right? So if I'm doing what makes sense from a tactical, perspective while I'm controlling both sides, it's still kind of fun to see what that turns into, right? But at the end of the day, I'm playing with action figures, and there's rules that control it, and I have a reason to do it. And so that's the big takeaway for me.
Also, as far as strategies, I'm sorry, the structure for a game is concerned, this a decision was made early on that there wasn't all information about every character was going to be public, and so it's very much like chess in that you look at the board and no one can surprise you unless you just didn't think of something. And there's playing chess against yourself, is a worldwide pastime as well. And then you take into consideration the effect that random dice rolls will have on the game there afterwards, and strategies start to branch out even from what you were planning. So you could find yourself in a position where suddenly you had a strategy that was based on Lexion or based on Thane, and just random luck causes them to either lose a lot of health or get eliminated altogether, and now you have to readjust.
Gotcha. So timing wise, Zach, how long would you say a game session would be, and like what's the pace at which a game moves from turn to turn?
Well, I know that some of our audience for today is going to be the same audience from when we talked to Cato about this. So you're going to hear me repeat myself. Okay. But we noticed something really weird when we started playtesting this game. The first game, and we're talking Thunderdome. I gave people action figures, the board, and the rule book, and then stepped back and just let them do it. That was an hour and a half.
Okay.
The next game, it was 45 minutes.
Same players.
The fifth game was an hour and a half. Because that's the tipping point at which they start making much more deliberate decisions in terms of the strategies, and also in terms of character building, because there's very light character building in this game, where there are 15 characters and each one has what's called a choose one option. With the exception of Pale, who has a choose two option because he's supposed to be more versatile. So he has 3 options, choose 2, and everybody else has a set one and then another one that they choose from a list of 2. So you have an option each time you choose a character, and then you have to pick 3 items for them to go into battle with. And so your first time playing the game, you're probably going to want to put a shield on everybody, and get some crossbows out there, things like that. And then by the fifth game you play, you're like, oh, I can load up one of these guys with health packs and see how that plays out.
Awesome.
So the strategy first starts to become very, very obvious, and you get quick at the game, and then it snowballs, and then it's just a question of how much thought do you want to put into it, and how big of a mess do you want to make this. And the bigger the mess that it gets, honestly, usually the more fun it gets too.
Right. Yeah.
Now,
and that's the thing. Coming back to what I said earlier about, of course, Plan A was to create a very engaging, rewarding, tabletop, gaming experience. But at the same time, like I pitched it to Jason, we're hoping this is a way to incentivize figure sales, right? We hope this is a way to incentivize army building, because of the fact that the amount of tactics that you'll be able to incorporate, or custom tactics that you can put together using or utilizing the choose one of 2 system, right? And how this ability with this character, right, works, with this particular character and this ability that they're using, right? So the diversity of the tactics that you'll have at your disposal is really controlled by the size of your collection.
I wanted to talk about my favorite moment in this game so far. It happened in playtesting, and it was my buddy John Canala. Shout out. And
JC.
we have so one of the ways that you can win this game is called overrun. If you can get all the way to your opponent's starting row and then hold that position for an entire turn, then you win the game. And he started bolting, and you have to do it with one particular character that you assign at the beginning. That's called your Vanguard, and he just started bolting with Lexion in that direction, but he didn't make Lexion his Vanguard. And so he's like right there. He's about to take the whole thing, and he. And I said, John, you can only win the game if your Vanguard holds the position in the last row. And he was like, oh, I know. Because he also had our mage character who can swap places with anybody who's 4 spaces away from him. And the ability is called Surprise! And so he's like, oh, I know. Surprise! And so he had a fresh character who was able to go all the way to the end after the initial run. It was beautiful.
How many games did it take him to get that strategy?
John, like me, knows a lot about board gaming. That was his second game ever.
Okay. So, I posed that question because, like, that seems like a pretty big, move in terms of, like, understanding the mechanics and stuff like that. But to be able to do that in your second game, notwithstanding his experience with gaming, I think is a pretty cool thing.
I've done that playing against myself, and it has utilizing Scarlet Witch as Vero Atlas, right? The mage character, and utilizing my 80th Hulk from the 2-pack as Thane, and I've swapped Thane out before on myself. You know what I mean? It's like, oh crap. It's like I did it to myself, but then I guess when you're controlling independent tactics for 8 characters, you can kind of lose, you know what I mean, or just you're not as cognizant as every single move that you're going to make. And then so anyway, I had one character moving in on Vero. I was like, I gotta take this wizard off the board. And then as soon as I got there, I was like, oh yeah, dummy, surprise! And then like things in his face and this monkey
smashing the other character. You're like, well, I didn't anticipate my character doing that to my character.
So yes, if you're kind of dumb like me, you can play by yourself and forget what good guy you and bad guy you is up to.
But it also talks a little. It also speaks to the modularity of how you can experience this game, because the suggestion is a 4-on-4 battle, but that is a suggestion, and one player controlling 4 characters is the suggestion, but it's just a suggestion. In the play testing phase, we found that most people were more comfortable with like doubles. They preferred to be in control of just 2 characters. So you can literally play this game. I wouldn't suggest more than 10 characters on the board total. So the number of players is 1 to 10. That's what I would say. But if you want to make it this horrifying, sloppy melee with 30 characters on the board, I say I honor your journey. Honestly.
Now here's a suggestion. Jeremy, you may like this one. Is there a format where you can add a combatant every 5 minutes or so?
You're talking like a Royal Rumble? you got to knock somebody off the coffee table? No, I mean, but Zach and I are always open to new game modes. We have the next set of we want to include at least one new game mode with the first expansion pack, and so we have that in our heads already. But if you on Cato's channel, we kind of talked about the necessity to have this board be rectangular, because we're trying to make sure it would fit on the average coffee table, right? Really, what you want to do it on a dining room table, but it can fit on the average coffee table, not the $18 ones from IKEA. They're too small. But we always talk about this game going long ways, right? 4 characters on this side, 4 characters on this side, coming together long ways. Look, if you just filled the board from the short side right? So where there's only like Zachary, how wide is the board? Yeah. So if you
Hey.
just go, if you just go on the long side right there, and just completely fill it up, and then going against somebody else who's filled every square on the opposite side too, and then you're talking like you've only got to move 3 squares before you're in contact.
Right.
So that's an option as well.
And for the army builders out there, when it comes to making the phalanx with the Chennari Legionary or the Chennari Centurion, there's no limit on that.
Mhm.
We didn't write a limit. You can make a 14 wide phalanx if you feel like it.
Yeah, if you've got the Chunari troops to man it.
So this
for it.
image here is sort of grabbed from the video. So I think are we cutting off the board at the bottom? Is that what's?
I think
How
you're
many-
missing a row.
Okay.
You're missing 1 row.
Just
Yeah.
trying to get it. Yeah. Okay. So
what
can you
should-
tell us? Well, I was just going to ask a little bit about like who was involved in doing like the artwork and how did you all kind of go about that part of it too? Because it's beautiful.
This
Yeah.
is the 4th board.
Oh,
as
okay.
I
far
was
as
going to say, this isn't the board that you guys had at Legion's Con last year.
No, it's not. Very similar.
Mhm.
Very similar. But I hope I'm using this word right. Synergy. Jason wanted there to be a synergy between the comic book itself, the package art, and the board itself. So
Makes
for
sense.
this final version, Utoma was utilized
sense.
for this
Okay.
one. But he's the 4th artist, I think, that's done a board for this game.
Okay.
Yeah, the first one, the very very first one that we had at Joe Fest was very Motu centric. A lot of black, dark shades of gray and purple, and stuff like that. And it was it had more of a dungeon feel to it than this kind of it looks like there's been a melee here, right? You see machine parts on the ground and stuff. We even had a bit of an homage to the sticker from the Castle Grayskull, right? The cage with the different monster hands. We had a bit of an homage to that would act as a an area hazard, right? So you'd have to go around that. Or if an opponent can push you on top of it, then it would deal damage or hold you there for a minute. But yeah, once I saw it, I was like, yeah, I 100% agree with Jason's decision on that.
Mm-hmm.
Are there elements here that kind of like tell us a little bit about story or what's going on? With this sort of like felled beast here, or that of?
Not that. Zach, go ahead.
So just something that you see, you look at the from our perspective, you look at the extreme right of the board, and you can see where technological elements are starting to come in, and then you look all the way on the extreme right of the board, and you see fewer of those things, more overgrowth, and a couple of technological elements, and it paints a picture that's very similar to what's going on in the narrative when you read the comic books, where Kali and his Ravager horde, they're trying to redefine life in terms of what they can achieve technologically versus the Chunari, who are trying to do the same thing but spiritually. And you can see just the way that it funnels. You're seeing these cobblestones that make this A frame on the Chunari side that are leading up into it. That gives you almost the point of a spear heading into the mouth of the beast. This whole thing just as a piece of art, and specifically as a piece of comic book art. Because this does look very much like a panel that you might see in the comic book. It has so much flow and so much interest to it, even before you start putting characters on the board. And so no, I'm absolutely in love with this thing.
That's great.
And I had nothing to do with it. Jeremy emailed me this 6 months ago, and I was like, oh yeah, we should do that.
Very cool.
Now you kind of bring up a point that Brick and I are absolutely obsessed with, which is the lore, which is the world in which this exists.
Yep.
How much of that will play a part in the game, or will that be something that if you appreciate the lore and love the lore and are reading the comic books, will that just sort of help you enjoy the game a little bit more, or will that have any sort of intrinsic kind of value to how the players work or interact?
Zach, you mind if I take this one?
No, what?
So if we get to the point, right, in the game's popularity where we are introducing new modules to the game, we've had some pretty in-depth conversations with Jason about narrative-based play scenarios.
Okay.
Something like in the very first issue, right, the Chunari are on a daring rescue for Mother Mika, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what if there was this one play scenario where an expansion pack came out that had a 2D standee of Mother Mika, and she's on the Ravager side, right? And then every turn she loses a certain amount of health. So on the Chunari side, you now have a certain amount of time in order to go and retrieve her and then get her back to your side. So essentially capture the Mika they said, but it's capture the flag, but the flag is bleeding
on one side. Yeah.
and so things like that. And then we have Zachary has the acumen, we have the know-how, we have the motivation to, like I said, if we get to the point of the game's popularity where it's necessitated, this is something else we talked to Jason about, what about side quests?
Right.
Things that happen, things that are happening narrative wise that you're just not seeing in the pages of the book. Right. So what if there was the opportunity to really like release an RPG book, or a small one anyway, that covers maybe a little tiny mini campaign that you would utilize these figures for. So we have no shortage of ideas on how to further expand upon this game and make it awesome for everybody. But it depends on the popularity, if it's and if those things are necessitated in the future.
I've said this before, privately and publicly. I don't know anybody that has action figures that wouldn't want that. Like, in my head, I'm like, it boggles my mind to hear anybody say like, yeah, it's not for me. And I'm like, yes, it is. Like, if you're collecting these figures, this is 100% for you.
Yeah.
Let me tell you why you are wrong.
Yeah, it's like I read those comments, and it's fine. But somebody will say, yeah, I just don't feel like this is for, love the figures, but I don't feel like this is for me. And I'm like, yes, it is, because I designed it for you as a figure collector. So let me stop you there. This is for you. But look, if you got to pass, you got to pass. But I think that you're missing out on something. I really do.
And, I mean, everything that you guys are saying, like, basically what I'm hearing as an action figure collector, sort of primarily, but somebody that enjoys a relatively simple, straightforward board game. I want to spend an hour to two playing a game. I'm kind of not the guy that's gonna spend 6 months or 8 years or my whole life in a campaign.
Right.
An hour seems great, but what I'm also sort of mulling over in my head is like, okay, but if I played a bunch of 1 hour games, would I then want to play, a 2-hour game or a 2-day game or a 2-year game?
So we get to the Netflix conundrum, right? Which is, if you ask me to sit down and watch an 8-hour film, I would say no one has time for that.
Yes.
But over the course of a Sunday, I will watch 8 episodes of a 1-hour show. Right.
And then you'll watch the spin-off show for another 8 hours.
Yeah, I'm doing that with Yellowstone right now. I binged 1923 in one day. Exactly. I gave it a shot. Yeah, I'll give it a shot. I'll see what Harrison Ford's up to these days. And I was like, okay, I'm hooked. I'm in.
Now, So something I will say about just the structure of this game when you compare it to other board games
Look
is
at Jason.
that
Look how happy Jason looks back there.
yeah.
Yeah.
This game is weird. It's an unusual game when you compare it to other board games, because board games, they have a tendency to organize themselves based upon like things like victory points, and you'll have sort of these niche objectives, and people are going, and it can either be going in a lot of different directions or it'll be cooperative. And it also attempts to throw more narrative elements and stuff like that in there. And this as a concept is very simplistic. It's just like we said on Kato's show. This is a street fight. It is nothing more and nothing less. And so that's part of the appeal.
In its current iteration. Sorry.
Yeah.
Right.
But I'll be honest. Like, I'm reading Mr. Wonderful's comment there, and I'll bring it up again. And sorry, Jeremy, I'm going to block your lovely face. But you're going to be building out a long-term campaign with us. Yeah. I'm sitting here thinking, okay, so maybe every round is part of like, you know, a story, right? You could almost sit down and say, like, here's the objective, because I feel like the framework that you guys are giving us is awesome and fun, and it's all about playing with your toys, but it lends itself so well to like adaptation and the ability for people to kind of learn how to play it for themselves in a weird way, which I think, Zach, that's kind of what you're getting at, is that this isn't like an A to B board game.
No, it's not. It literally is the easiest thing to compare it to is any other companion product for an action figure line. You know, this isn't terribly dissimilar from things that you would buy for your dioramas. This isn't terribly dissimilar from vehicles that you might get for a line. You know, this is meant to create and facilitate a space for play. And you know, honestly, this is something we've thrown around, and you know, with other ideas that we've had for the articulated action system, and this one, we've talked a lot about Mighty Max. The idea, it's this thing that comes, that, you know, you open it up and it's already a diorama, and there's all kinds of play features that have their own contexts. And Mighty Max, this happens to Mighty Max when he's over here, this happens to Mighty Max when he's over here. And I think that has always been a high watermark for what we're trying to do, while still giving players control over it. And that is very much this game, when in terms of control. And especially when it comes to like how the board changes each time, because one of the problems with Mighty Max, obviously, is, you know, everything is static, and this one, you would have to make a coordinated effort to make the board the same each and every time.
Right.
And I haven't even done the math on the total number of games possible with this thing. I haven't bothered, but I know we're going into 4 digits. I know that for a fact.
Wow.
That was like, as far as game goes, that was more or less all the questions that I had kind of written down. Brick, was there anything else that you had, or have you? Had any?
I guess not. Just first off, we showed the commercial earlier, and we're sort of showing shots from it. Just like, great job on the commercial, because I think it sort of captures kind of the fun and the concept pretty quickly of like, hey, get your friends together. Here's your action figures. We've got, you know, like we found ways for you to play, and the idea of like really people handling their figures in a way, like, so you were joking earlier about sort of Jason here kind of like having a great time posing up Kali, but that has function in the game, right? Right. And so just that idea is really, really cool. So I mean, not a whole lot, I guess, just good job, I guess. And I am kind of curious. Yeah, I'm curious to get our hands on the game and sort of see where people go as folks are naming in the chat. Like, folks are already talking about like, oh, or even Adam.
I was hyped
just
before.
Link to story. Could we? Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm more hyped than I was, which I didn't realize was
So
really possible.
Adam was the after we first of all, as far as the commercial is concerned,
Mhm.
all credit to Jason.
Yeah.
He conceptualized the whole thing.
Great.
Brought in the people, hired the company that shot it and did all the post process and all that stuff.
And cast himself as himself.
and cast himself as himself, just like that Nick Cage movie. But yeah, and I think that's a testament to how Jason feels about the game, right? Is that something like that was warranted? Because I do think when you have I'm a very, very visual learner. And so when you do have something like that you can see, instead of me saying, hey, I'm doing an Animal Wars of the Kingdom board game, but you can see what we're trying to achieve right there. And he encapsulated that, I think, perfectly, the essence of it, right? Knocking your figures around. You got your friends there having a good time. Because I got to tell you, one of my favorite Christmas memories from recent history was when Zach and I, because we're geographically separated, due to my occupation and whatnot. But Christmas 2021, was that, Zachary?
I think so, yeah.
Christmas 2021, Zachary and I actually got together to play a very, very early version of this game, which I was super excited anyway, because we were doing it because Action Force Wave 1 had just come out. And so I knew I was going to be at my parents' house for that. So I put my shipping address as my parents' house, so I'd be there. So what you have is like me and my brother playing with action figures on Christmas and having such a good time doing it. It's like we were back in 1994, 1995 again. And that's another element to this. It's intangible, right? It's something that we can't explain to you. It's not a game mechanic or anything like that. It's you're getting something back that you probably lost a long time ago.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This question was really early, but I think you're kind of leaning into this already, Jeremy.
A question for the brothers.
I have an answer to that.
Did you have as much fun as kids as you are now?
No.
Nope. Did you miss the part about the scar earlier?
No, dude, we had an absolute blast, man, and we were causing such a ruckus in there when we were playing. Like, our dad's in the living room. He's like, he's like in there. What you boys doing? It was so much fun, man.
That was that beautiful moment when you did a bull rush at me, and and Jeremy's phenomenal at posing his figures, and we didn't even have any of those clear stands or anything, and so he did a bull rush to put his character like in a full sprint at me, and then he comes up and he whiffed the hit, and so I immediately put mine into a sprinting pose to go past him to try and hold on. So like the game between actions is frozen, and so we just had both of our characters running complete opposite directions.
It looks so stupid, but
it's like they just missed.
It's like two jousting knights just whipped each other, and now the horses are going in opposite directions now. But yeah, dude, we took a look at that. I think we laughed for like 3 minutes straight.
Yeah,
just how ridiculous it looked. But that's you get these things back, man. And hopefully people have enough friends that are close in order to do this. But if you have a friend that has the same collection as you do, there is zero reason why you can't do this over Discord or StreamYard or something like that. I know people do that with especially during the mandatory lockdowns. A lot of D&D sessions, right, where people you would traditionally meet up at the game shop did go to Discord, and I don't think that there's any reason that you can't utilize this in that same fashion.
I certainly hope that's true, because I don't know how many games. Well, my wife probably won't play at all. My 7-year-old is my only hope. She'll probably get annoyed pretty quick. So I'm really banking on the sort of ability to play this online with people.
Dude, I would love to, like, once it's in hand, you know,
I'll add you
had,
to the list. There's
Yeah.
because everybody, I think a lot of people are kind of in that scenario, right? Where
Yeah.
they're like, we know other AWOK, fans,
right.
but maybe not next door or within, a distance where you're necessarily going to be able to play this game.
Right.
But as we were sort of saying and alluding to, right? Like you can play this game if you have no idea what AWOK is.
Mhm.
But knowing what AWOK is going to add another layer. So I think playing this with like-minded collectors is going to be, a bonus above and beyond how much fun this game is going to be for everybody.
Yep, I agree.
Okay, a few more questions from the comments. Payne's Toy Samples, when we were talking about the crossbows and bows, he said, what about guns and shotguns? I can assume that it's probably going to have a similar thing. There's probably just, mechanics to how those work.
Oh yeah, and one fun thing, we were talking about how narrative plays a role in the game. So Kali is the one who has a special ability with a pistol. And it's the Ravagers that have special abilities with a shotgun. And so all of the technologically based special abilities, they're over on the Ravager side.
Right.
He's got the dual wielder. Yeah. Using a sword is fun with those guys too, because they have a synergy. They have a kind of a pile-on thing because they're supposed to just be the just this massive horde.
You should army build them.
You should army build them, honestly.
If you army build them, they
so in terms of
and if you army build them, you can swap the parts so that they don't all have to look the same.
Do not do that.
It's not endorsed. It's not endorsed by Spiro Toys or Jeremy or Jason. But I'm just saying, it's possible. It's possible.
Read the orange
Read
paper.
the orange paper.
Read the
How do
orange
you get an
paper.
orange paper?
Okay, then whatever happens, that's on. Okay.
I want you to know every time I touch an AWOK figure, I hear Jeremy on one shoulder saying, "Read the orange paper."
It's like Mist. Remember Mist? The blue pages, the orange papers.
Oh, Mist.
So
Yeah.
well, let me hit on the differences between pistols and shotguns. They're both energy weapons. So the pistol deals 7 damage, where the average number of health points for every character is 20. So it's significant. But the pistol comes with 3 charges. So if you miss, you're down a charge. And there's a mechanic in the game called reload. Things have when you reload something, it takes energy to do so. Pistols don't have a reload feature. When they're done, they're done. So if that's part of your strategy, bring 2. Kali, his special ability is that he has an extended magazine. So he has 6 charges instead of 3.
Okay.
Shotguns. Shotguns. They have shorter range, as you would expect, but they deal 10 damage. They can hold 2 charges, but they take, I believe, 7 energy to reload. And you only gain 2 energy per turn.
Right.
So if you don't get your point across early on, you're going to spend a lot of time and a lot of resources not using other special abilities, because you're like, oh, I got to get my shotgun back. So they're very much a blast and forget. They're all additionally, the shotgun is a 2-handed weapon. You will not be using your shields with it, except for one character, and I can't remember his name, but he can actually dual wield his shotguns, so he can actually take a character out really quickly.
Oh wow, dual wielded shotguns. That's wild.
And the pistol is a light weapon. Which means that you can use it if you are knocked prone, and you can use it if you're grabbed. And also switching to it is a simple action instead of a movement action. So everyone's got kind of quick draw with that. That's one of the advantages. So you can put your sword away and get that pistol out real quick.
I could see Adam, you were looking at the possibility of dual wielding shotguns as far as dealing damage is concerned. but remember
probably
what
slows
it's
you
going
down.
to well, remember what it's going to take to reload these things.
Reloading,
Mhm.
yeah.
Right, and then you've got both of your hands occupied by these weapons. So if you do find yourself in a scenario where you can't reload these things, what are you gonna do?
Right.
Like you're kind of screwed. It's like when Kata was talking about building an entire team out of things. That's great. You got a lot of muscle, but I'm gonna run circles around you. I mean,
Yeah.
absolutely, I'm gonna run circles around you. And I'm just
That's-
gonna get in guerrilla tactics, right? I'm gonna stick and I'm gonna move real
Mhm.
quick.
And that's absolutely where my brain is actually going. Like when I just hear these possibilities, right? I hear
Yeah,
about,
yeah.
switching weapons. I hear about dual wielding weapons. I'm just like, without having the game in hand and like without sort of knowing, like just hearing each sort of new piece of sort of, oh, and this does this. Oh, and this does this. Oh, and if you do this, then this happens. I'm like, my mind, I'm trying to kind of figure this all out while I'm also trying to keep this conversation going. It's like-
No, it's fine. I love talking to like-minded individuals that are very enthusiastic about this, but I think that if between the time like right now, obviously we're talking to as many people about this as we possibly can because we want you to pre-order it.
Yeah.
Please pre-order it. But if we talk about it to the extent where there's nothing left to surprise you when the product gets to you, then I think we've done everyone a disservice. So, but what I can tell you is that we utilize the vast majority of that 18-month development cycle for this, ensuring that we had the highest quality product that we could possibly put together for people, where we eliminated, OP teams, right? A certain combination of this character, using this item with this one of two ability, right? It gives you a decisive advantage from the very beginning, right? So, and then eliminating redundancies at the same time. Hey, this doesn't make sense. It's too similar to what we already did with this over here. So that's that's the best I can tell you. Now, obviously, we're going to talk about a couple other game mechanics, and stuff like that. Just because there's so many of them, it would take a really long time to run through everything. But yeah, we want to make sure that when you get it in hand, we didn't spoil everything while we were trying to promote it.
Yeah, and on that note, you don't have to necessarily spoil and explain, but maybe a simple like yes, no.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. And
Absolutely
then
not.
next question. Thane, you're talking about Thane and the sort of size of that character. And I'm looking at the squares on the board.
Right.
Does the size of the character are those kinds of things that you're taking into play in terms of okay.
Yeah, Thane has no choice but to occupy 2 squares.
Okay.
Due to his width. So that means he's vulnerable to attacks, right? Or he's vulnerable to more attacks than a standard character would because of their size. So if his width puts him 1 square closer to the maximum range of another character, right? Then that's that's just a byproduct of being huge.
He also has a different relationship with the cover pieces than other characters. He can't hide behind big pillars the way anybody else can. Just part of him is just kind of slopped over the side.
Love it. So you're really thinking about those things, and then you were talking about weapons again. We don't need to necessarily go into just that we thought about it, or no, we didn't think of thinking about it. The different types of weapons. You were saying guns. The toys are made, so we got these different accessory packs, and one of them's radioactive. Like, are you thinking like, do those things matter at all?
Those packs,
should people consider buying different?
Blights, poison tip daggers.
So there was one thing I wanted to talk about, and this is going to derail us just a little bit.
Let's go.
The development cycle has been long enough that there have been new products that have come out since we started, and so there's some things like the radioactive materials that we have plans for, but they're not in the base game because the base game was already like 80% complete when we started figuring out these particulars. And the reason that I mentioned it in that context is I'd like to be upfront about this. This might sound a little vulnerable, and this might sound a little. I hope it doesn't come across as desperate, but one of the important things about pre-ordering this game is that it has to be printed and shipped over, and we have an MLQ for it, and that MLQ is 500. So I believe that there are 500 people out there that want this game. And what we're trying to do is we're just trying to spread the word as far as we can so that everybody gets to play it. Because I have a lot of faith. I have a lot of faith in this project, and I don't think we have to sell it. In fact, I know we don't have to sell it because Jeremy took this to Legion's Con in a very primitive state, and it was really just the energy about how this game works that got people really, really excited about it. That said, Blight's poison spears were already there, and they are a mechanic specific to Blight. Yeah.
I love it.
Cool.
That's
very cool.
Jeremy, you've mentioned Vero Atlas's magic, right? So that's, I love that. Like, if there's a character that you love, he's probably going to do something cool in the game as far as you're concerned. Like, that's just one of those things that on the topic of characters, though, somebody did ask, Mr. Wonderful, is Tanger going to have some features or benefits different than other large scale figures?
As far as I know right now, there is no plans for that. So you would just either utilize him with the rule sets for either the Horde Berserker or for Thane.
Okay, that was my assumption because he is sort of outside of the lore as a con exclusive figure. So Ray Paz has a couple questions that sort of tie together here. Does the terrain affect the gameplay?
Not yet. One of the things, if I can get to that answer in a very, very long way, what
if I could waste everyone's time.
Yeah, if I can answer that, but take a minute to get there, right? We wanted to make sure that for the action figure enthusiasts, this game was extremely accessible. So adding too many statuses or maybe environmental hazards, right? We didn't, things that you would traditionally find in other tabletop games. We're assuming that you're not, that you haven't been exposed to those things yet. So we're going to start off with something that, someone who is more seasoned with tabletop, you might find some of this simplistic on its face, right? But the further you dive into it, then you'll see, the complexity that actually exists there. But as of right now, we are very, very excited about having environmental hazards. They're just not a thing right now. But like I was saying earlier, if it's warranted, if the engagement with the game is there, and then we needed to diversify what's happening on the board in order to keep it fresh for people, then I would love to do an environmental hazards, right? Or area, like persistent area of effect stuff, like a fireball spell that just keeps one, square on fire for a turn, right? So you can deny enemy movement through that particular corridor right there. Things like that. We definitely have that in mind.
And Ray Paz also asks, in sort of a similar vein, I think, I see you have those pillars. Can they be picked up and used as a way to cause harm?
So we the pillars are interacted with. If we're talking, a little bit more about the terrain that the terrain elements that do exist. We talked about this on the last show with Kato. That the Berserker character, he has that tornado ability that can actually be blocked by the larger pillars. And Thane, he can actually pick up the short pillars and hurl them at characters. Which does a significant amount of damage, but it takes a lot of energy on his part, and the range is limited. It's just sort of because ultimately one of Thane's things is having control of the battlefield, and he's big, and it's not difficult to put him in a position where he just can't move forward anymore. So he has the ability to kind of clear cut things. And while we were at it, we were like, why don't we just have an homage to Donkey Kong? And he can just hurl those things at people's heads.
You guys kind of alluded to this a little bit in terms of, the shape of the board and sort of the evolution of the board. But Paints Toy Samples asked about board expansions, not just game expansions, but is there the potential for board expansions?
We have dabbled in conversations about this, but really we're holding off any kind of plans for board expansions because we need to see, when we were playtesting these things, I was essentially throwing house parties, and everybody would bring their fold-out tables. It's not the normal in-home gaming experience.
Yeah.
And so we're really looking forward to seeing what people's relationship with this game is spatially before we start demanding that they move it to the backyard.
Yeah.
Or try to get a banquet hall at an Olive Garden in order to play this thing. because it's big. It's a big game.
You got a couple of people in the back of the bingo hall playing AWOK as your grandma checking off C13 on her card, right? I think Adam, one of the first people that reached out to me about this game once we made it public that we were doing it was you, Adam, and you were like, what are the dimensions? I want to do my own custom board, right? You wants to do some dio work or incorporate the board into diorama work at the same time, and I think that's absolutely fantastic. So looking at it from that perspective, you know that the game operates on a 3.5 inch square grid. If you want to go pick up all the pink foam that you want to and make your own custom board to do so, have at it. You want to go to PetSmart down in the aquarium aisle and get all the tropical trees and rocks and stuff that you want to really gussy this thing up. I think that's going to look amazing, and that's exactly what I plan on doing as well. But the advantage that I have is that I have the rule book, so I can play right now.
Paints Toy Samples has a couple questions related kind of to the lore and sort of what we've seen in the comic book but haven't seen in the line. Will we get mechs in the game?
As authorities figures position on this is that anything that Jason decides to make a toy out of, as long as it's warranted, it will be compatible with the game. Right.
So has there been talks about
yeah, it's not
confirmed.
It's not. I mean, it's not spoiling anything. We've had conversations about how to integrate vehicular combat into the system and what that would look like. So that's not saying yes or no. I'm just saying that those conversations have definitely happened, being the professionals that we are and anticipating that coming one day. So so take that for what it's worth.
He also asked any de-evolution in terms of characters.
I think he's asking, are we not men?
Yeah.
Right?
If you can get back to us real quick, I have a clarifying question for you. Are you talking about like Kali's clones? Specifically?
Well, no. So Kali from time to time in a weakened state will return to his more humanoid form. Well, he's in a humanoid form now, but very very human looking. In order for that to happen, those figures would need to exist. That's
okay. So it's effectively the same answer as the last question. If there's a physical item, there will be a corresponding.
There will be representation in the game, and it will be integrated, and you'll have the ability to utilize that inside the game.
Very good. Very good.
Mr. Wonderful asks, so what happens to my desert rat figure if he fumbles his way into the middle of the battle?
I got a desert rat that may fumble his way into some monkey business himself. So
I feel like you could substitute him in, right? You could, you have once you have the character bios, you could theoretically sub him in for whoever you wanted, I guess, if you wanted
Yeah,
to
well,
use him as a piece on
well,
the board.
that's how. Yeah, I mean, Wave 1 has just now been hitting over the last 6 weeks or so. So
Mhm.
all of the playtesting has been conducted with other figures from other lines.
Mhm.
We just said, hey, this, Masterverse Man at Arms here is Thane. No, I always use Hulk. We'll say he's Atreyu or something, right?
Yeah.
So
And
yeah, you can do that.
that was a conversation that we had early on about like characters on the board and swap outs and things like that. And I was pointing to something that happened when we were running this. There's a Star Wars version of Dungeons and Dragons, and that was called Star Wars D20 Saga Edition. And we played this game literally for like 3 years. It was one that I was running, and the story just kept getting crazier and crazier. People kept showing up, so I kept writing things for it. And one thing that happened really early on, we had all of these, we had these stock fantasy Dungeons and Dragons miniatures to play the game with. And I would say probably like 2 weeks in is when we all collectively started our Star Wars miniatures collection, because aesthetically, when you're in that play space, having all the visuals work together the way that they're supposed to, it just puts it right over the top. And so if you find yourself in a position where that's necessary, I 100% understand. But I guarantee you that having the characters there is a lot of fun. A lot of fun, especially one issue that we ran into during playtesting is like I have a lot of those DC 3 3/4, the ones that sell for $8 at Walmart. I have a lot of those, and so like I'd have like Superman, Batman, Robin, and then like a Sonic the Hedgehog that's not in scale with the rest of it.
Yeah.
And so
and then it was like Buttercup from Princess Bride, like
right. And people were having to write down what character they were and what character they were on the board to keep it straight. And so there is a play advantage to having the appropriate figure in the appropriate slot, because it's who it's supposed to be,
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think like I'm already looking at the figures themselves and thinking like, okay, what do I want my team to be in terms of the figures that I want to have on the board?
Right.
But I know that as soon as I get the character cards and I'm sort of reading, the different abilities and the different functions that they serve in the game, that may change very quickly. Or there's also sort of an element of like, okay, I want to play this team. Let me see how that goes, and then sort of, I'm just so excited. I'm
gonna phrase this in a way to make sure we don't get a copyright strike. There's no wrong way to eat this particular chocolate disc. No matter where your collection is right now, you're gonna find value in each character, and you're gonna find value in every combination.
What I really want to do is like during a meetup, because I know there's a lot of us that are going to Legions Con, right? So I would like for at least one person to bring a board with them, and then we have we drink some beers in the hotel, playing this and stuff. But what I want to do is I want to get 4 Feralist Stalkers on the board, and then just as soon as we start, I just take my figures off the board. There's nothing on my side whatsoever, and it's like, figure it out, nerd.
Where do you even go? Where do you even move? Like, I guess
you circle the goddamn wagons is what you do, because they're invisible and they're fast. So you want to get your guys back to back, because when they do get revealed, it's gonna suck. So, but it's gonna force that other individual into a very, very security based and defensive posture.
Yeah.
Right?
And it sucks even worse if they find you,
right,
and not the other way around.
Yeah,
you need to figure out where they are quickly.
Yeah. one thing I will mention about the Feralist Stalker, just because we're talking about the Feralist Stalker specifically. And I don't know why it's not up there yet, but the Feralist Stalker comes with an alternate head. So buying multiples is not a bad idea. Not shown in the picture there, but
yeah, Jason has a tendency to do that. If you look at Wave 1, the production photography or that was used for advertisement, and then you look at everything that actually came in the box with Wave 1, there's way more stuff there. He didn't
extra
have
weapons, extra hands.
There were 6 additional hands. It's like you could have put those in the picture. That would have helped out with people's perception of value and everything. But it worked. So who am I to question it?
And one thing,
I mean, I think that speaks to this line and to the design aesthetic and to the overall vibe of the line. Between, and I've said this to you, Jeremy, and Brick, I say this to you all the time. Like between the figures, the comic books, the board game, other stuff that we might see, come down the pipeline later on. This is like the most complete IP, and it has that. It has that feeling of like an IP that we've known forever, and yet it's fresh and it's new and it's different. And I mean, even games. People were talking about hero clicks in the comments, and there have been attempts at kind of games that were related to IPs that we're collecting action figures for, but there's never been there's never been this really beautiful relationship between actually using your action figures on the board, and I just it's genius.
I think
like it.
So if I can jump in, Adam, sorry I stomped on you there.
If I can interrupt you while you're congratulating us.
No, on the face of it, G.I. Joe: Real American Hero had something that on the face of it was similar. Under the hood, it's a completely different animal, right?
Yes.
But I think that the point that we're at as far as technological advancement is concerned, and then engineering in these figures, there was no reason to take a 5 POA Batman Returns figure and try to achieve what we're trying to achieve with this, because it's just not like, I mean, they're cool for nostalgic reasons, but you can't do anything with that,
right?
Yeah, it's like Batman in all the movies, he couldn't even turn his own head, the figure isn't turning his head, so anyway, although that would be cool, right? We have the ability to take these highly engineered figures with 27 plus points of articulation, do some really, really interesting stuff with them. And then get them in some crazy poses, swinging swords and blocking attacks, and you put them in a kneeling position behind half cover, with their bow and all that. It's going to be so much fun, man. Just to manipulate the articulation that was already there to begin with.
Absolutely. We're at an hour and a half, so we're a little over the hour that we were shooting for. Why don't we run the commercial, and then we'll get some last words from everybody, and we'll wrap it all up. Okay.
Actually,
I just want to run the commercial again because I love it.
We'll run the commercial, but I do, we're showing the site, but because some people were asking where's the game?
Yes.
We should probably walk folks through that too, because again, what I heard was in order to get all these awesome things that we've been throwing out and hypothesizing, we got to get the initial game out, and pre-orders are open. So let's run the commercial and then
let's
be
do
the
that.
commercial.
Yeah, absolutely. See you in 44 seconds.
Introducing Animal Warriors of the Kingdom Primal Battle by Spiro and Authority Figure. A turn-based strategy game using the Animal Warrior action figures as your game pieces. Use strategy and teamwork to overcome the odds or crush your opponents with brute force. The adventure is in your hands. Includes battle boards, rulebook, dice, and stat cards for 15 characters. Use Shop Pay to secure your order and pay over time. Figures sold separately. Animal Warriors of the Kingdom Primal Battle.
Nice.
It's so good.
Friends, coffee shops, and high fives sold separately.
All right. So, if you haven't already, here's how you get the game. Brick, I'll let you walk people through this. So this is
Sure.
the SpiroToys.com website.
Yep, you go there. This is the first screen you'll see, and I get it. People were asking, like, where's the game? So it's actually part of Wave 3. So you'll click here, move into Wave 3, and so you'll see the Wave 3 figures here and different options of the game, and we should talk through that. So this one is the option of pre-ordering the game with a special edition or with this Chinari Centurion figure, right? And then, so they're the figures themselves. You want to buy it one by one, or you want to go all in and get one. But wait, there's more. You can get the game itself, right? You can get 2 all-ins. So 2 of each of the figures. And as pointed out earlier, if you missed it, there may be some things that come with these figures that aren't necessarily pictured here, right? Like alternative heads for the Fearless Stalker that we heard Adam mentioning. Hey, why get 2 when you could get 3? So, you know, if you're building up your brutes, here you go. And actually, why don't you all give us the quick rundown of why they might consider, you know, this figure versus this figure. You've kind of mentioned it throughout, but just since we have the visual, like, what are some things to consider in terms of gameplay? The quick.
Well, especially if are you talking about just these 2 or any army builder?
Well, let's go through these 2 and then we'll go to the ones underneath.
Okay, so all the Horde characters and all the Chinari characters actually inhabit their own clan mechanic, where the Chinari Centurion is responsible for creating the Phalanx, and so the Chinari Legionary is kind of your army builder on that side, and then they build the rank. However, that's not the Chinari Legionary's only ability. He also has a morale boost ability that can really help out in a fight. So you might want 2 of those, and then maybe 2 Centurions in order to fill out that rank. Or you might just throw Pale in there because he's technically a Chinari. The same thing is happening over on the Horrid side. On the Horrid side, every Horrid is a Horrid is a Horrid is a Horrid, and it's the Horrid Ravagers that have a pile-on ability where they get bonuses every time somebody strikes an individual target who was also a Horrid, and that's true. That's true for the Berserker as well. And so you might want to, if you were going to army build your Berserker, for example, it would be nice to set up 2 AOEs to get them into that Cyclone ability, spinning and hitting as many people as possible, and then move in with 2, or I don't know, maybe you're playing a 6-on-6 game. Move in with 4 new Ravagers to take advantage of the bonus that you get because he also attacked.
You're mentioning the Berserker. So which figure are you referring to?
The one in the blue, the Savage Scale Horrid character.
The one below those.
These here.
No. The Berserker is the big.
Oh, the
go back
Berserker.
up.
Yeah, Berserker is
This right here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, I just
scale.
the reason I was asking just to make sure, because since we're showing this, so it won't say Berserker. We're talking about these guys, the Brute Squad.
You're right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just trying to sell it here, guys.
Yeah, no, I didn't know that. I was told about the Berserker, and that's the way his name shows up.
Gotcha.
That might be a typo in my version right now. That's possible.
Okay.
But yeah, one of the things that we really wanted to do is because we know people love to army build. And so we talk about how this is a companion product that's meant to incentivize sales, but we also want to honor the way people love to collect. And one of those things is if you've got a no name like the Centurion, like the Berserker, people who inhabit a class of characters instead of one specific named character, and you like to have a bunch of them, it makes sense to have a bunch of them in the game.
Okay.
So yeah, absolutely. Oh, so one versus the other, I couldn't say. My suggestion is build them all up.
And then what I was hearing you say earlier is that the fearless stalker over here, we're
Yes.
talking speed.
They're speed, and they're also pack hunters.
Okay.
They instead of getting an accuracy bonus, they actually get a damage buff when they attack as a unit. Now the accuracy buff happens if they can manage to get into attack range and then attempt an attack from their hidden position. So their modus operandi is vanish, surround you, destroy.
No,
Nice.
that's what I was saying. Put everybody back to back. You
Yeah.
know, because they are maneuvering around you.
Mhm.
You can't tell. So it's yeah,
Well,
have
there you
fun with
go.
that. But you know what? It's should have army built, nerd. So no, I'm just joking.
So you've got the options to army build. There's plenty of different like bundles you can check out. There's the game itself alone, if that's the way you want to go. But it's all here. And again, if it's unclear, go to the site. You're looking for wave 3. So that's way over here.
Yeah, spring
And that's where you'll
2023.
find the game. So
Right. And then I
there you
should
go.
also mention that the game as it is right now is compatible with the first 3 waves of Animal
Right.
Wars of the Kingdom. So
Yep.
because I guess it wouldn't make sense not to be compatible with the wave that it's being released with. So
Right.
but yeah, so the first 3 waves are covered. And like I keep saying, if there's enough engagement and it's successful enough as far as sales are concerned, wave 4 of Animal Wars of the Kingdom will have an expansion pack available that will have all the character cards for those new characters that are coming in each successive wave, and hopefully a new play mode or a new game mode, and something like that to make it worth your while. And we're anticipating these expansion packs for each of the waves to be about the same price as a standard figure. So we're thinking about $32.
Awesome.
One thing to mention, just in case there's anybody in the audience who maybe isn't familiar with the line or with Jason, et cetera, when you're getting to this website, because the URL is cut off at the top, Spiro it's not like Spiro Agnew. It's SPEROTOIS.com, and you're looking for that spring 2023.
Yeah.
Yeah, because my first thought was, oh, I'll go look it up on the website. And it took me a second to figure out where to go. But yeah, it's right there.
Because your head was stuck on Spiro Agnew. Is that what it was?
It was, and
Yeah,
it always has been and always
love
will
it.
be. There's a Spiro Agnew expansion to this game coming out fall 2025.
There you go.
If you're watching live, you're obviously not looking at the links likely because well, they're not there. But if you're watching in the replay, I'll post all those links down below as well. So it will be as easy as clicking on the link, and you'll go directly to the game purchase. So,
and if I may throw out there, definitely check it out. If you're here, you heard all about the game. But if you're even like, if you're excited about this and you love the idea of supporting indie toys, indie games, tell folks about it. You may not necessarily have people who are super big action figure people, but they might be into games, right? So let those folks know that this thing is coming. Let them know that it's open for pre-order right now. I keep thinking about all the different sort of pockets of people that might be interested in something like this. And I think the name of the game right now in the next, 20 some days, is what we're looking at, is to just get it out there as much as possible, which is really what, as much as we're fans, that's what Monkey Business is about, because we are fans and we want to play this, but the reality is that may not happen unless we push it as much as possible. So that's my spiel.
Right. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, all of that's 100% true. So, yeah, tell your friends. Tell your friends.
Anything else you guys want to add? Parting words? Where can people check out stuff that you're doing, socials and stuff like that?
Our presence at the moment is relatively light. And I don't even know if we've set up the. Thank you so much, Mystic Dolphin. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And I don't know if we called attention to it, but thank you, Mr. Wonderful, as well.
Yes.
And that is on the horizon, and I'm sure that we're going to need to do another chat with you guys when we start talking about our next project, because it's going to be a lot of fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
What's the date for pre-order? When does that officially end?
It does. I mean, I wouldn't say
Tomorrow,
end.
so
I wouldn't say end.
Okay.
But so the first, so all of Wave 3 to include the Primal Battle board game are going to be exclusive to Spiro for the first 30 days. So this went live this past Thursday. So we're looking at like 27 days from now. It will all of the retail partners will have the ability to start taking pre-orders for this as well. So you'll see Big Bad Toy Store, Entertainment Earth, and also a huge deal for Jason was getting listed by Diamond now, which is absolutely massive. So, and do not forget about our individuals in the community that are retail partners as well, especially my friends Ted and Aaron over at Hella Dope Toys, right? And then also Hard to Find Toys with Renee over there, fellow Army vet, fellow Houstonian, right? Who's running an e-tail shop as well. I know for you guys up there north of the border, it's going to be collectibles.ca, correct?
eCollectibles.ca.
eCollectibles.ca, right.
And I was talking to Mike from eCollectibles yesterday, and he says anything that Jason puts out, he's going to carry. So don't worry if you're up here in Canada, you will have access to all this stuff sooner rather than later. It's just a matter of when Mike is basically allowed to post it on the website. So
yeah, tell him he needs 200 of the board games minimum. Okay, but yeah, like you know, we believe in the product, right? We think it's going to add another layer of Zach. What's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know, because whenever we talk about our long-term engagement, I'm out in the aether saying that I want to completely revolutionize everyone's relationship with their collectibles. So
Look, that's honestly that's a good way to put it, right? The motto here at Authority Figure has been from almost day one, get them off the shelf and get them in the fight. Right, so we want to add at the bare minimum at least a new dynamic for you to engage with these products. But yeah, as far as social media is concerned, you can find me on Facebook at Authority Figure. You can also find me on Instagram at Authority Figure Studios. I have a Twitter that I do not touch, so don't at me there.
I think I have one too, but I don't even know.
Twitter's a barren wasteland. But yeah, and thank you as always for having me on your channel, Adam. Brick, it was good to stream with you again. I think this is my 4th time coming on your channel, Adam, but the first time I managed to not mention Neverending Story until like just now. But yeah, that's kind of a weird.
Oh, he gone.
Anyways,
technically, Atreyu came up.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Wish I could have cut him off sooner. But anyways, that'll be fun. He's just beating that dead horse. Is there going to be a Never-Ending Story expansion pack? Once Jason gets that license,
I don't know.
Figures out just for you.
Do you even want to talk about the conversations that we've had?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Anyways, it's been an absolute pleasure, guys. It's always fun to chat with you. You know, if you guys haven't already, go out and get your pre-order in for the game. Like Jeremy said, like Zach has said, you know, there is a minimum order quantity for this game. I mean, you guys are gonna hit it. I'm not worried about that at all. But let's try to hit it a little bit sooner. Right. Let's get this game into production right away, and then before the e-tailers even have a chance, let's get a little extra margin in Jason's pocket so that he can hire some more people But anyway,
Thanks.
it's been a pleasure. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for joining me. Everybody in commenting and stuff like that. And if you're watching the replay, that's very much appreciated as well.
And
if
actually,
you
Adam,
enjoyed
don't
this,
forget.
I haven't forgotten. Don't worry.
Okay, go for it.
If you enjoyed this chat about AWOK, stay tuned for a lot more. Check out Brick's channel as well. We keep going back and forth on sort of how we were going to do this. We're going to do the live ones on this channel, Monkey Business, and then on Brick's channel we're going to do the AWOK Talk pre-recorded ones. We confused ourselves by trying to sort of stream it on two channels, and it got confusing. We were trying to reply to comments on each other's channels, and it was a mess. We promise we're never going to stream it on two channels again. So it made more sense to do it this way. We're gonna.
But aside from which channel, aside from which channel, it's that. It's still the number 2.
Subscribe to both
right?
channels.
But
we're gonna do
every
Monkey
2 weeks.
Business basically every 4 weeks. We're gonna do AWOK Talk every 4 weeks. So it'll be every 2 weeks. You'll get AWOK content. Which I don't know if that's good or bad. If like for us, it's more AWOK content is good. Hopefully that's the case for you as well. But yeah, Zach, did you want to add something? You put your hand up.
Oh, I pointed at Brick.
Oh, okay.
Because we mentioned his channel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And again, I should have put it in the notes, in the description there, but I will add the link to Brick's channel. I will add the link to Authority Figure. I will add the link to Spiro Toys. Go order some AWOK figures. Definitely go get that board game, because if you're not playing this game, you're going to be missing out, especially once you see us playing it live. On that note, it's been an absolute pleasure. Until we meet again, friends.
Get them off the shelf.
Get them off the shelf. Get them in the fight.
Into the fight.
Bye-bye, everybody.